It's been a while since we covered one of the Decepticon jets, so this week it's time to look at the history of the one you keep asking for in the comments. These are the basics on Thrust. The original Thrust toy was released in 1985, the second year of the original Transformers toy line. The figure was a red and black recolor of the F-15 Eagle jet fighter that had been released in 1984 in various colours as the Decepticons Starscream, Thundercracker and Skywarp, retooled to add new wings with VTOL turbines. The toy was designed with the intent that the jet mode nose cone be folded down behind the robot's head. But the character models created for the Transformers cartoon and comic of Thrust and his fellow 1985 jets Dirge and Ramjet were based on a sample of the toy that, either accidentally or on purpose, left the nose cone up, giving them distinctive conical heads. This has gone on to become a standard feature in modern depictions of the characters, and led to fans nicknaming the trio the Coneheads. A profile for Thrust was written by Marvel Comics writer Bob Budiansky, who characterized him as a loud-mouthed bully. Named after his ability to rapidly accelerate to 5 times the speed of sound for short bursts, Thrust tried to win fights through intimidation, psyching out his enemies with the roar of his engines. But if an opponent stood up to him, he would be quick to retreat. Thrust joined the cast of the Transformers cartoon partway through its second season, but like most of that year's new characters, no explanation was given for where he came from. He was a pretty generic Decepticon thug, and usually worked alongside Dirge and Ramjet to battle Autobots, terrorize humans, and steal energy. Notable adventures apart from his fellow Coneheads included visits to Saturn's moon Titan and a planet of alien giants, plus a solo scene that showcased his bullying personality, in which he destroyed the Autobots' computer Teletran-1 right in front of their human ally Chip Chase, purely out of cruelty. The continued availability of Thrust's toy in 1986 earned him a memorable cameo spot in The Transformers the Movie, being run over by Optimus Prime, and he would continue to appear in the subsequent third season of the cartoon. In the Marvel comic book, meanwhile, Thrust was introduced as one of the troops serving under Lord Straxus, the Decepticon leader on Cybertron. He later came to Earth over the Decepticon space bridge and battled the aerial bots as part of an operation to steal hydroelectric energy from Hoover Dam. He would make only a few more minor appearances before the discontinuation of his toy in 1987 saw him quietly phased out of both the comic and the cartoon. That was about it for Thrust for the next decade. In the 90s, he, Dirge and Ramjet were considered for an appearance in the series finale of the Beast Wars cartoon, in which their offline bodies would have been found aboard the crashed Decepticon spaceship, the Nemesis, on prehistoric Earth, a callback to the original cartoon to explain where they had come from in it, but the idea was dropped. However, in 1998, a new incarnation of Thrust was released in the Japanese version of the Beast Wars toy line. Like many characters from the Beast era, this Thrust was a separate character who only shared the name of the original. He was a Predacon who turned into an F-22 Raptor jet. As seen in the Japanese animated series Beast Wars II, set in the distant future, Thrust was part of a Predacon unit led by Galvatron, seeking to plunder the incredible Angle-Moi energy hidden on post-apocalyptic Earth. He was a goofball with the personality of a Japanese stand-up comedian, and always worked with Dirge, who played the part of his straight man. The pair weren't terribly successful warriors, and later in the series, seeking to become stronger, they allowed themselves to be exposed to Angle-Moi energy to power them up into new forms. Thrust became Thrustor, a cyborg velociraptor, retooled from the Beast Wars Dinobot figure. Back in America, Hasbro also chose to reuse the name Thrust on a new character featured in the 1999 Beast Wars sequel series, Beast Machines, as a way to keep their trademark on it active. Totally unrelated to the original, the Thrust of this series was a cool, brooding bot who transformed from wheeled robot to Cybertronian motorcycle. He was one of the Viacon generals created by Megatron to lead his army of Viacon drones. The generals were given life by sparks Megatron extracted from other Transformers, their consciousnesses buried beneath the generals' personality programming. Maximal Spider Black Arachnia believed that Thrust held the spark of her lover Silverbolt and dedicated herself to reawakening his buried memories. But it turned out that she was wrong, and the spark within Thrust was really that of the Predacon Waspinator, who loved his new life as a bad boy biker bot. Thrust would continue to loyally serve Megatron until the series finale, when the Maximals defeated Megatron and reformatted Cybertron and all its inhabitants into techno-organic forms, reducing Thrust to a tiny biomechanical wasp. A figure of Thrust was released in the Beast Machines toy line, but it was based on concept art and didn't look much like Thrust's finalized cartoon design. A toy of one of his Viacon motorcycle drones was released later in the series, which better resembled the character. In 2014, the Transformers Collectors Club released a toy that offered an alternate take on the character's fate, one in which the reformatting of Cybertron had fused Thrust and Waspinator, body and mind, into a single being named Thrustinator, who now travelled the multiverse, correcting anomalies in the time stream. 2002's Transformers Armada took Thrust back to his roots as a cone-headed Decepticon VTOL jet. This version sported a green and grey colour scheme rather than the original's red and black. A recolor of the toy in the classic colours was planned, but was swapped for one in the colours of his fellow conehead Dirge instead, with the red version seeing only limited international release. Armada Thrust's characterization differed greatly between the Armada comic book and cartoon. The comic gave him the personality of a cowboy, but in the cartoon, in which he really rose to fame, he was an arrogant, power-hungry military tactician with the power of invisibility. He cared nothing for his fellow Decepticons, using them as pawns in his battle plans and happily trampling over them in his rise to the position of Megatron's second-in-command. Unsurprisingly, this meant that Thrust was despised by his teammates, with even Megatron giving him the insulting nickname Squidhead. Thrust's dreams of power allowed him to be lured into a partnership with the devious Sideways. Turning on the other Decepticons, he helped to awaken Sideways' master, the godlike monster planet Unicron, from hibernation. In his arrogance, Thrust believed he would be Unicron's right-hand man, but soon learned he was far beneath the Dark God's notice. While facing Megatron atop the revived Unicron's shoulder, Thrust took a simple misstep and became caught in the indifferent giant's shoulder joint, where he was crushed to death. A new toy of Armada Thrust was released in 2016 as part of the Japanese Unite Warriors toy line. Resurrected by the power of Unicron after his death in the cartoon, he could now combine with a group of other similarly resurrected Transformers drawn from across the multiverse to form the giant robot Grand Galvatron. He would feature in the Unite Warriors and Transformers Legends manga, getting up to his old treacherous tricks. Armada was the last time Thrust had a truly significant role in Transformers media. Most subsequent versions of the character have returned to being based on the original, a red and black retool of Starscream who's mostly just a generic Decepticon warrior. That said, the Decepticon Jets, or Seekers as they're also known, are an iconic, recurring aspect of the franchise, meaning that while he's rarely a prominent character, Thrust does continue to appear regularly, showing up in most major iterations of the brand, with multiple toys in various different series, and a slew of minor roles in comic books, cartoons, and video games. Some of his more notable appearances in the last few years have included a recurring role as a Decepticon goon in Transformers Cyberverse, with a surprisingly non-cone-headed design, a cameo in the live-action Bumblebee movie, which unexpectedly blended a Generation 1 inspired robot design with Armada's green and grey colour scheme, a supporting role in the Marvel comic prequel miniseries Secrets and Lies, and a small part in Transformers Earthrise as a member of Double Dealer's band of mercenaries. Wherever you find seekers, you can trust in Thrust to be there. And those are the basics on Thrust. Decepticon, Predacon, Viacon, Bully, Biker or Squidhead, which one's your favourite? Join the cut and thrust of the comments to have your say. For more Transformers history and lore, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to get notifications for new episodes, or sign up to Patreon where you'll get to watch them early.